What's up, guys? Today I'm going to do a review on LITHE skateboards. I've been skating this board for a few weeks now, and it looks like this board is going to last a long time. So I'm going to do a review right now, and then I'm going to do another review at the end of this board's lifespan. So this board can take a beating. It's 5 layers of Canadian maple sandwiched in 2 layers of carbon fiber, which makes the board really light, really thin. And then all around the outside of the board, there's a really hard polymer that's resistant to razor tail and razor nose. So this board is supposed to last 6 times longer than a traditional maple skateboard deck. It's supposed to be resistant to razor tail, razor nose, and it's supposed to keep a consistent pop throughout the lifespan of the board. I found all that to be true for the most part. Most of the days I've been skating this, it's been below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's been very cold outside. And when it's cold, my muscles just don't work as well. I don't get as much pop. And it's harder to land tricks when it's really cold. I feel like if I had skated this board in summer when I'm not as heavy and my muscles are working better, I would have a totally different impression of the board. But as of right now, I feel like the pop is a little bit soggy, but it hasn't lost any pop since I first started skating it. So it's got a tiny bit of razor tail, but it's lasted way longer than a traditional skateboard would, and it has kept its pop. It's not the poppiest board I've ever skated. It's not like a P2 with spring-loaded pop. I do prefer a brand new wooden deck, because you've got that crisp pop and you can even hear it pop. With this hard polymer, it kind of mutes the sound, so you don't hear as much pop, and that messes with me a little bit, but it just feels a little bit softer than a brand new wooden deck when you first pop. I've never been worried about chipping boards, but since I've been skating this board, I've noticed I've slammed this thing into so many ledges, dropped it off everything, and it doesn't chip. The nose and tail are very, very durable, and I didn't realize how much I actually slammed my board into ledges. This board is flat. I wish it had a little bit more concave, but it is very flat. I talk a lot about the shape and the size of the board in my unboxing video on the LITHE skateboard on this channel, so check that out. If you want a little more detail, it's the street deck, and yeah, it's really flat through the middle. It has a big nose and tail, and there's a lot of curve to the nose and tail, but the middle part, there's not a lot of concave. This is one of those boards that I might actually start skating the nose as the tail, because the nose is perfect. I've done so many nollies on this board, and the nose hasn't gotten any razor nose, and it pops so good. Best nose I've ever skated. So yeah, if I flip the board around, skate the nose as the tail, I'm going to get a little bit more pop. It's a little bit steeper, a little bit longer. Don't get me wrong about any of this, because this is the best skateboard deck that I've ever skated. It keeps its pop longer and it lasts longer. It's really thin, really light. And yeah, it's the best board I've ever skated, but it should be, because it's also the most expensive board I've ever skated. This board is $200, you know? So it is the best board I've skated, but I think I would rather have $200 worth of blank wooden maple decks. If you get blank maple decks from a manufacturer and they're $20 each, you could get 10 of those decks for the price of one of these boards. And I do think that 10 wooden decks would last longer than this board and have more pop and more consistency, because you could switch them out a lot more often. One thing I was really surprised about with this board, I wasn't expecting it to be as slick as it is. The bottom of this board has some kind of coating on it that just doesn't wear off. It slides really good. I've skated it on unwaxed street ledges. I've skated it on park rails. And I'm somebody who skates rails on the bottom of my board sometimes. I've skated black ice boards. I wax the bottom of my board. And I like a slick board. So I was really surprised that this thing slides better than any of those. It slides better than a black ice board. It's really slick on the bottom. And the crazy thing is, I've been skating this thing for 2 weeks. I've done so many board slides, lip slides, skated parking blocks, curbs, and the graphic doesn't wear off at all. Like, you do not wear through the graphic like at all. There's a really thick coating on the bottom of this board, and the only thing that has happened to it is it's gotten paint from parking blocks that I've skated doing board slides and lip slides on the bottom over the coating, but it has not worn through the coating at all. The graphic is still the same as it was when I first got the board. So the stiffness of this board allows you to pop really quick. So I think tricks that you don't actually pop your nose and tail, tricks that you just pop the board and it gets in the air before you even pop the nose and tail, like sometimes nollies for me, or anything in the mini ramp like pivot to fakies or switch pivot to fakies, any of that kind of stuff. This board works really well for that because it's stiff and poppy. It's very responsive. The wood, the actual deck of the board, is very responsive to what your feet do. This is a great board for transition skating. I have loved this board in the mini ramp. And if you are somebody that just skates transition, the amount of pop that you're actually going to do in transition, this board could last you the rest of your life if you're just going to skate mini ramp with it. It's going to retain its pop because of that carbon fiber in between the layers of wood. It's a great board for any kind of bowl skating or transition skating. I haven't got my flip tricks down on this board yet because of how flat it is, but also it's winter and I'm never good at flat ground skating when it's really cold outside. What's messing me up on the flip tricks is not the landing, it's the actual flick. This board feels great for landings because it's so flat and my feet feel like they land comfortably on the board. Even though this board feels thin, I haven't been afraid that I'm going to break it landing on it at all. So I'm very confident landing on the board. It's the actual flick. So the board is so flat that my kick flips under flip. But when it does flip enough, I have no problem landing on the board. It's usually the opposite of that with a new board. So with 360 flips, I usually have a perfect 360 flip as far as the flick goes. And I can usually always catch it with my front foot. But sometimes I'm a little bit scared and hesitant to put my back foot on. So with this board, it's the opposite. Like the landing feels great, but I feel like I have to flick a little bit harder and actually change my flick because it is kind of a flat board. So there you go, guys. That's what I think about Lithe skateboards. I think that it makes me feel more confident about a lot of different tricks. If I could get used to the flick, I would really like this board. I'm probably not going to buy another Lithe skateboard deck. If somebody gives me one for free, I will definitely skate it because I really like this board. I've got a whole stack of new skateboard decks that I need to skate and do reviews on. So I'm probably not going to buy another one of these. I like to change my deck out, a little bit more than that. So it's a great board. It is the best board that I have ever skated. And it does last a lot longer than any other skateboard deck that I've ever skated. But I feel like I'd rather skate different boards, every month or every few months. So that's just my opinion. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, reviews, tutorials, and videos about what I'm learning as I grow as a skateboarder, then hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.